E1, the Little Red Hen. Here we go. Once upon a time, a little red hen decided to plant some wheat. "Who will help me plant this?" she asked. "Not me," said the dog. "Not me," said the cat. "Not me," said the duck. You see, they were all quite lazy. "I will just have to plant it by myself," said the little red hen. Before long, all the wheat was tall. "Who will help me cut this?" asked the little red hen. "Not me," said the dog. "Not me," said the cat. "Not me," said the duck. "I will just have to cut it by myself," said the little red hen. Before long, all the wheat was cut. "Who will help me grind this?" asked the little red hen. "Not me," said the dog. "Not me," said the cat. "Not me," said the duck. "I will just have to grind it by myself," said the little red hen. Before long, all the wheat was ground. "Who will help me bake this into bread?" asked the little red hen. "Not me," said the dog. "Not me," said the cat. "Not me," said the duck. "I will just have to bake it by myself," said the little red hen. Before long, all the bread was baked. "Who will help me eat this?" asked the little red hen. "Me," said the dog. "Me," said the cat. "Me," said the duck. "No, because you did not help. I will just have to eat this bread by myself," said the little red hen. And so she did, with jam on top. F2, the Three Little Pigs. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived 3 little pigs. One day, each pig decided to build a house to keep safe from the big bad wolf. You see, the wolf loved to eat little pigs. The first pig built a cozy house of straw. But the big bad wolf huffed and puffed and blew the house down. Quick as a wink, the first little pig ran away before he became breakfast. The second little pig built a cozy house of sticks. But the big bad wolf huffed and puffed and blew the house down. Quick as a wink, the second little pig ran away before he became lunch. The third little pig built a cozy house of bricks. He invited the 2 other pigs to live with him. The big bad wolf huffed and puffed and huffed and puffed, but he just could not blow the brick house down. "I'm coming down the chimney to eat you for dinner," said the wolf. Please do, said the pigs sweetly. You see, they had put a pot of very hot stew at the bottom of the chimney. When the wolf came down the chimney, he landed right in the pot. Ouch! 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 He yelled. Then, quick as a wink, he dashed out the door and ran far, far away. After that, the three little pigs lived safe and sound in their cozy house of bricks, and the big bad wolf never bothered them again. F3. Martina the Cockroach. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a pretty cockroach named Martina. She lived in a nice little house. One day, she found a gold coin while sweeping her floor. What should she buy? Should she buy shoes? Should she buy candy? No, I will buy perfume, she said. She bought perfume and put it on. Then she fixed her hair and put on a pretty dress. Martina looked and smelled beautiful. Now she was ready to get married. But she did not want to share her home with a noisy husband. A cat came by and said, "Marry me." "What sound do you make?" asked Martina. "Meow, meow," he said. "No, thank you," she said. A rooster came by and said, "Marry me." "What sound do you make?" asked Martina. "Cock-a-doodle-doo," he said. "No, thank you," she said. A frog came by and said, "Marry me." "What sound do you make?" asked Martina. "Ribbit, ribbit," he said. "No, thank you," she said. A dog came by and said, "Marry me." "What sound do you make?" asked Martina. "Woof, woof," he said. "No, thank you," she said. Then a mouse came by and said, "Marry me." "What sound do you make?" asked Martina. "Kee, kee," he said. "Oh, I love that sound. It is like a whistle. It is like music," said Martina. Martina and the mouse got married the next day. All of their friends came to the wedding. The mouse's friends sang to the couple. Martina and the mouse lived happily ever after, and his soft sound was always music to her ears. G4. The Tortoise and the Hare. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived a tortoise and a hare. The hare, who was very fast, always teased the slow tortoise. "Ha, ha, ha! Even a snail is faster than you, he said. The tortoise did not like the teasing one bit. Finally, he decided to do something about it. Let's have a race, he said. The hare fell down laughing. Okay, but you know I will win, he said. We will see, said the tortoise. One day of the big race, all of the animals came to watch. On your mark, get set, go, said the fox. The hare hopped, fast, fast, fast. The tortoise walked, slow, slow, slow. The hare hopped, fast, fast, fast. The tortoise walked, slow, slow, slow. Soon the hare was way ahead of the tortoise. Ha ha ha! I can take a nap and still wake up in time to beat the tortoise, said the hare. So he did. Snore, snore, snore. But as the hare napped, the tortoise walked, slow, slow, slow. And guess what? By and by, the tortoise passed the hare. After a while, the hare woke up. Oh no! The tortoise is winning, he yelled. He jumped up and hopped along the path. But it was no use. The tortoise crossed the finish line first. The tortoise won! The tortoise won! All the animals cheered. How did you ever beat the hare? Asked the horse. The tortoise grinned. The hare may be fast, but slow and steady wins the race. G5. The Threebilly Goats Graph. Here we go. Once upon a time, there lived three Billy Goat brothers. Their names were Little Billy, Middle Billy, and Big Billy. One day, they decided to cross the bridge to eat the sweet grass on the other side. There was only one problem. A mean troll lived under it. Clump, clump, clump. Little Billy started across the bridge. Then he heard a cranky voice. Stop there. I'm going to eat you up, yelled the troll. Wait for my brother. He is bigger and much more delicious than I, cried Little Billy. What a fine idea, said Troll, licking his lips, and with that, Little Billy crossed the bridge. Clump, clump, clump. Middle Billy started across the bridge. Then he heard a cranky voice. Stop there. I'm going to eat you up, yelled Troll. Wait for my brother. He is bigger and much more delicious than I, cried Middle Billy. What a fine idea, said the Troll, licking his lips, and with that, Middle Billy crossed the bridge. Clump, clump, clump. Big Billy started across the bridge. Then he heard a cranky voice. Stop there. I'm going to eat you up, yelled the Troll. Okay, said Big Billy, for he had a sneaky plan. When Troll climbed up on the bridge, Big Billy rammed him so hard that he fell into the water with a giant splash. After that, the three brothers crossed the bridge whenever they liked, and the sweet green grass was delicious. G6. The Gingerbread Man. Here we go. Once upon a time, an old woman baked a gingerbread man. She put it on a plate to cool. But the naughty cookie jumped off the plate and dashed out the door. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man, he sang. The cookie was right. Try as she might, the old woman was just too slow. After a while, the cookie came to a dog. I'm going to eat you up, said the dog. Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man, sang the cookie. The cookie was right. Try as he might, the dog was just too slow. After a while, the cookie came to a cow. I'm going to eat you up, said the cow. Run, run, as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man, sang the cookie. The cookie was right. Try as he might, the cow was just too slow. After a while, the cookie came to a fox. Standing by a river, the fox was licking his lips. Don't even think about eating me up. I ran away from an old woman and a dog and a cow. And I will run away from you too, said the cookie. I don't like cookies, fibbed the clever fox. I just want to help you get across this river. Hop on my shoulder. I promise you will not get wet. Okay, said the cookie. So he did. Crunch! The fox munched the cookie in one bite. My, what a tasty treat, he said. And that was the end of the poor gingerbread man. G7 Stone Soup. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a village. It was a nice place to live, except for one thing. People did not like to share. One day, a visitor came to town. "Hello, does anybody have food to share?" he asked. "No," said everyone. "That's okay," said the visitor. "I will make stone soup for everyone." Then he took a stone and dropped it into a giant pot. The visitor sniffed his breath. Some people came outside to see what he was doing. Some watched from their windows. I love stone soup. The only thing better is stone soup with cabbage," said the visitor. That gave one man in the village an idea. He brought a cabbage and put it in the pot. Then the visitor said, "I once had stone soup with cabbage and carrots. It was delicious." A woman brought carrots and put them in the pot. Then the visitor said, "I once had stone soup with cabbage and carrots and corn. It was delicious." A boy brought corn and put it in the pot. Then the visitor said, "I once had stone soup with cabbage and carrots and corn and beans. It was delicious." A girl brought beans and put them in the pot. The soup cooked and cooked. Finally, it was ready. Everyone ate a big bowl. "This is delicious," they all said. The soup made them so happy that they danced and sang all night long. From then on, the people in the village shared, and their very favorite thing to share was stone soup. G8 The Ugly Duckling. Once upon a time, 5 eggs began to hatch. Crack, 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 crack. Out popped 5 little ducklings. 4 were fluffy and cute. 1 was gray and ugly. The cute ducks were mean to their ugly brother. They pecked at him. They said, "You're ugly. Go away." One day, the ugly duckling did go away. He swam and swam. After a while, he met some geese. But the geese were just as mean as the ducks. They pecked at him. They said, "You're ugly. Go away." Once and again, the ugly duckling did go away. He swam and swam. After a while, he met some herons. But the herons were just as mean as the geese. They pecked at him. They said, "You are ugly. Go away." Once and again, the ugly duckling did go away. He swam and swam. After a while, he came upon some swans. They were the most beautiful birds he had ever seen. When the swans swam near, the ugly duckling hid his face and cried. He did not want them to see how ugly he was. Life went on like this for many months. The ugly duckling stayed by himself. He also grew and grew. One day, a swan swam over and spoke to him. "Why are you so shy?" he asked. "Because I'm ugly," said the ugly duckling. The swan laughed. "Have you looked in a mirror lately?" That made the ugly duckling curious. He looked into the shiny water. Wow! He had grown into a beautiful swan, just like them. From that day on, the once ugly duckling lived happily ever after, and he was always kind to all living things, from peacocks to potato bugs. G9, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Once upon a time, a family of 3 bears decided to go for a walk. They shut the door of their tidy house and off they went. By and by, a girl named Goldilocks saw their house. "What a nice home!" she cried. Then she opened the door and went inside. In the kitchen, Goldilocks found 3 bowls of porridge. She tried the big bowl. It was too hot. She tried the middle bowl. It was too cold. Finally, she tried the little bowl. It was just right. So she ate it up. Slurp. In the living room, Goldilocks found 3 chairs. She tried the big one. It was too hard. She tried the middle one. It was too soft. Finally, she tried the little chair. It was just right. So she sat down, but the chair broke into bits. Crack! In the bedroom, Goldilocks found 3 beds. She tried the big one. It was too hard. She tried the middle one. It was too soft. Finally, she tried the little bed. It was just right. So she lay down and went to sleep. Zzz. By and by, the bears came back to their house to have breakfast. "Someone has been eating our porridge," said Papa Bear and Mama Bear. And someone ate mine all up, cried Baby Bear. The bears went into the living room to sit down. Someone has been sitting in our chairs, said Papa Bear and Mama Bear. And someone broke mine into bits, cried Baby Bear. The bears went into the bedroom to lie down. Someone has been sleeping in our beds, said Papa Bear and Mama Bear. And someone is still in mine, cried Baby Bear. With that, Goldilocks opened up her eyes and screamed, "Yikes!" Then, quick as a wink, she ran out the door, and the three bears never saw that rude girl again. G10. The Spider and the Beehive. Once upon a time, there was a small African village. In it lived a little boy and a tricky spider. The spider thought he was smarter than anyone else. The boy had a special talent. He was able to find the biggest, sweetest fruit in all the jungle. One day, the spider was hungry, so he asked the boy, "Will you take me to the best plums?" The boy agreed. They walked deep into the jungle to the boy's favorite plum tree. The spider felt greedy. He ate up every single plum and did not share any. The spider rubbed his belly. He said, "Now can you take me to the best bananas?" They walked to the boy's favorite banana tree. The spider ate up every single banana and did not share any. His belly was full, but the spider said, "Now, can you take me to the best honey?" The spider and the boy walked farther and farther into the jungle. Then the boy said, "Inside this hive is the most delicious honey in the world." The spider squeezed into a hole in the hive. He ate up all the sweet golden honey and did not share any. The spider was ready for the next treat. But when he tried to climb out of the hive, he was stuck. His belly had become too big. "Help! Get me out!" he cried. The boy said, "You have not been very nice to me. Goodbye, greedy spider." Then off he went. The spider yelled and yelled, but nobody could hear his cries. He was too far from the village. For an entire week, the spider sat in that hive. Then finally he squeezed out. And from that day on, the spider always shared his fruit with his friends. Age 11. The City Mouse and the Country Mouse. Here we go. Once upon a time, there was a little mouse. He lived in the country. One day, his city friend came to visit. "Welcome," said the country mouse. "Glad to be here," said the city mouse. The two mice had a great time. They played tag. They climbed trees. They took long hikes. All of this made them very hungry. So they went into the fields and began to nibble some corn and beans. But after a while, the city mouse wrinkled up his nose. "This food is so boring. In the city, I eat the finest meat, cheese, and pie. Do you want to go there with me?" asked the city mouse. The country mouse licked his lips. "Oh, yes," he said. The next day, the two mice jumped on a train and went to the city. They walked to a tall building and took an elevator to the tippy top. This was where the city mouse lived. The home was fit for a king. It was big and very fancy. "Welcome," said the city mouse. "Glad to be here," said the country mouse. The two mice had a great time. They listened to music. They played games. They ran from room to room. All of this made them very hungry. So they went into the dining room. There stood a table filled with meat and cheese and a whole cherry pie. "Mmm," said the city mouse. "Mmm," said the country mouse. But just as they started to nibble the food, in came a cat. In came a dog. In came a person. "Run for your life," said the city mouse. Quick as a wink, the mice jumped off the table and ran into a little hole. The country mouse had never been so scared. "I'm going back home," he said. "Do you really want to leave all this fine food?" asked the city mouse. "The city is nice, but corn and safety are better than cherry pie and danger," said the country mouse. The two mice hugged goodbye. Then the country mouse jumped on a train and went back to the country. "No matter where I roam, there is no place like home," he said. Age 12. The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, there lived a kind shoemaker and his wife. Times were hard, and they became very, very poor. One day, they had only enough leather to make a single pair of shoes. The shoemaker put the leather on his table. "Tomorrow, I will make one last pair of shoes to sell at the market," he said sadly. But a magical thing happened. When the shoemaker woke up, the leather had already been turned into a fancy pair of shoes. "Wow, I will sell these at the market," he said. The shoemaker sold the shoes for a bag of gold. With the gold, he bought more leather. The shoemaker put the leather on his table. The next morning, he found 2 fancy pairs of shoes. "Wow, I will sell these at the market," he said, and so he did. Again, the shoemaker used the gold to buy more leather. He put the leather on the table. The next morning, he found 3 fancy pairs of shoes. Life went on like this for many months. In time, the shoemaker and his wife sold many shoes and became very, very rich. The shoemaker and his wife were happy, but also very curious. Who was making all the fancy shoes? One night, they decided to find out. Instead of going to bed, they hid behind a curtain. When the clock struck midnight, in came 2 little elves. Zippity-zip, they made 100 pairs of the fanciest shoes ever seen. Then they danced a joyful jig and left. 2 elves have been making the shoes," said the shoemaker. "Did you see their tattered clothes? Let's make them some new ones to say thank you," said his wife. All day, the shoemaker and his wife worked and worked. She made 2 tiny outfits. He made 2 tiny pairs of shoes. They put the new clothes on the table and hid. When the clock struck midnight, in came the 2 elves. The elves were surprised to see the fine clothes instead of the leather. Zippity-zip, they put on the shirts, pants, and shoes. Then they danced a joyful jig and left. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the 2 elves again. But thanks to their good deeds, all 4 of them lived happily ever after. Age 13, The Princess and the Pea. Once upon a time, there lived a prince. He was very lonely and wanted to get married. The prince looked high and low for the perfect wife, but had no luck. He could not find a real princess anywhere. One stormy night, there was a knock on his door. When the prince opened it, he saw a girl. Her hair was wet, her clothes were muddy, and she was shivering. "Hello, I am a princess. May I stay here tonight?" she asked. "Of course," he said kindly. The prince invited the girl in. "Come warm yourself by the fire. Have a cup of hot chocolate," he said. "Thank you," she said sweetly. The girl seemed very nice. Could she really be a princess? The prince had a plan to find out. First, he put a tiny pea on a bed. Second, he piled 20 mattresses on top of the pea. Third, he piled 20 quilts on top of the mattresses. "Here's your bed. Sweet dreams," he said. But the girl's dreams were not sweet. She tossed and turned. She barely slept at all. The next morning, the prince invited the girl to have some pancakes. "How did you sleep?" he asked. "I don't mean to be rude, but I slept very badly. It felt like there was a boulder under my back," she said with a yawn. The prince smiled. Then he got down on one knee and asked the girl to marry him. Why? He knew that only a real princess could fill a tiny pea under 20 mattresses and 20 quilts. The girl said yes, of course. Then they both lived and snoozed happily ever after. I-14, the Nightingale. Once upon a time, there was a king. He lived in a beautiful palace in the land of China. Behind the palace was a forest. In the forest lived a nightingale. The nightingale sang so sweetly that he was known far and wide. People even wrote books about him. One day, the king read one of the books. "This bird lives in the forest behind my palace, but I have never heard him sing. I must," said the king. So he sent his most trusted servant to bring back the nightingale. The servant went into the forest. By and by, he came upon a plain brown bird singing a sweet song. It was the nightingale. "Will you come to the palace and sing for the king?" asked the servant. "Of course," said the nightingale. At the palace, the nightingale sang and sang. The king loved the music so much that he cried. "I will buy you a fancy cage so you can sing for me always," he said. So he did. By and by, a present came from the king of Japan. Inside was a toy nightingale. It was made of gold and covered with jewels. The king wound up the toy bird and it sang. "This is so pretty. I will place it in the cage with the real nightingale," he said. So he did. By and by, the king seemed to forget all about the real nightingale. Feeling unwanted, he flew back to the forest. "No matter, the toy bird is better," said the servant. Every night, the king listened to the toy bird sing, but one day it broke. "It will never sing again," the servant said sadly. Years passed, and the king grew very sick. "My only wish is to hear the music of our nightingale," he said. He begged the toy bird to sing, but of course it did not. By and by, the real nightingale heard that the king was sick and flew to his window. There he sang a song so sweet that the king was quickly healed. "Dear Nightingale, you made me well. Come back. I will throw away the toy bird. Then you can live in the cage all by yourself," said the king. "No, keep the toy bird," said the nightingale. "I like the forest, but I will come to your window every night to sing." So he did, and his sweet music brought joy to everyone in the palace forevermore. I-15 Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful girl named Cinderella. She lived with two step-sisters who were very mean. They made her dress in rags and do all the chores. One morning, an invitation came. The handsome prince was having a ball. The mean stepsisters were very excited. You see, they both hoped to meet and marry him. On the day of the ball, Cinderella helped her stepsisters get ready. She ironed their dresses. She curled their hair. They were so mean they didn't even say thank you. "I wish I could go to the ball too," cried Cinderella. Poof! A lady with a magic wand appeared. It was Cinderella's fairy godmother. "I will help you," she said. Poof! The fairy godmother turned a pumpkin into a coach. She turned mice into horses. She turned Cinderella's rags into a fancy dress and her old shoes into glass slippers. "You look lovely. There is only one rule. You must be home by midnight, or the spell will be broken," said the fairy godmother. Cinderella agreed. Then she waved goodbye. Cinderella was the star of the ball. Everyone thought she was amazing, especially the prince. He quickly fell in love with her, and they danced all night. Cinderella had such fun, she forgot to look at the clock until it was almost midnight. Oh no, there was no time to say goodbye to the prince. She ran outside so fast that she lost one of her glass slippers. Bong! The clock struck midnight, and the spell was broken. Cinderella's coach turned back into a pumpkin. Her dress turned back into rags. I guess I will just have to walk home, she said sadly. A minute later, the prince ran out to find Cinderella, but all that was left of her was a glass slipper. I will search high and low to find the owner of this shoe, he vowed. True to his word, the prince went from house to house. He tried the shoe on every girl he met, but alas, it didn't fit any of them. Finally, the prince knocked on one last door. Cinderella's mean stepsisters answered. Both lied and said the shoe was theirs. But try as they might, it was too small to fit their big feet. Just then, Cinderella came into the room. Will you please try on this shoe? Asked the prince. Cinderella nodded. The shoe fit perfectly. At last, he had found the girl from the ball. Will you marry me? Asked the prince. Of course, said Cinderella. Cinderella had a great big wedding and even invited her mean stepsisters. Then she and the handsome prince lived happily ever after.